let's move on now to Stellenbosch-based PSG, one of the market's favorite companies. Of course, Jannie Mouton has become a bit of a legend on the South African investment scene because of the spectacular record, it must be said, of some of the companies that they've invested in very early and then brought to the market. I only have to start with the biggest giant of them all, and that's Capitec, trading northwards of 400 Rand a share. You can't fault them, specifically in a sector which has taken its fair share of beatings. Curro Holdings is the other one, of course, significant holding there in the private education environment. And then there's PSG Konsult, which is the listed financial services entity. And then there's Zeder, which is in the agricultural space. So you can almost knock them off. We'll hear from JP in a minute how all of that represents in terms of the share price. 30.8 billion rands worth of market cap, dividend yield 1.04%, price earnings ratio 22.36. Again, PE is somewhat tricky here, but look at that share price, following the good fortunes of its underlying holdings.
Almost 500% in 5 years, great performance. The long-term compound annual return of the PSG group since they listed is over 50% per annum. That is absolutely amazing. So the best track record of all the companies we're discussing today. So some would say therefore the best capital allocator.
Yeah.
Sure, it's been helped that their biggest holding, Capitec, has been just about the best performing share in its own right on the JSE since listing. Yeah. But it's not only a one-trick pony. They have started Curro from within the group. They have put together Consult with a few different businesses put together for the listing, and Zeder has performed very well too for them. So it's not just all about Capitec. There is more to this group than just that one investment.
And what this talks to is Jannie Mouton's ability to pick guys to back, as well as to find niches within the overall economy which are somewhat underdeveloped, and then to stick with them long enough to actually see them come to fruition.
Correct. The people part of the equation is very important here. If you look at who are the heads of these different companies that PSG has a stake in, and that's another skill that a capital allocator needs to have if they take significant stakes, even majority stakes. The people are just as important as where to put the capital.
One just question in my mind, and I'm unresolved about this, there's a relationship historically between the Steinhoff guys and PSG, but the direction of that relationship now is that Steinhoff still has a chunk of PSG, right?
Correct, that's the way, yes.
And that's not necessarily a negative. I mean, they may choose to sell it at some point, but there'd probably be plenty of people interested in snapping that up.
Agreed, yes. And at some point, if you go back a few years ago, other investors were looking at PSG to take over PSG, so they needed to get a few friends and family on the shareholder register to avoid that. Steinhoff were one of those, or rather Marcus Joost in his own personal capacity. He flipped that into Steinhoff, so then Steinhoff became the shareholder in PSG. So what might happen to that in future, I don't know, but it's not a big issue.
Okay, one final point, we're a little bit over time here, is that when you talk about a Remgro, then you know that there's like Jannie Durant, and then there's another few lieutenants coming up the ladder, and that's the management succession issue, and then there's Johan Rupert flying in for the meetings and so on. When you talk about Brett, you know the cast of characters. With PSG, it's really more of a kind of Jannie Mouton and his immediate family. His son is involved in the business. So it's a little bit more of a kind of homespun environment down there. Is there any issue with regard to management succession? I mean, Jannie is only, what, I'm guessing he might be 60, 65. He's not ancient.
Correct. And his son Pete is there on merit. He's also a very good capital allocator. If you look at some decisions that he's made, notwithstanding that he's family, but there is depth if you look at who are the heads of the different divisions. So I have no concern regarding the depth of management and succession planning.
Hot or not?
PSG, hot for me, around a 15% discount. So that's where things become interesting. High quality portfolio. I like it. Hot.
Okay, I've been a little bit of a skeptic with regard to this one, but I'm thinking it's time to come around. I'm going to go with hot on this one as well. Well done. PSG, you made the mark.